Okay, guys, we're here tonight with George Fiorini from Cincinnati. And George, I just lost you for a second, but you need to turn your video back on. It is May the 15th, and we are going to talk to George. He actually has a very amazing story. We do a disclaimer. We're going to talk about a technology tonight that is evolving around the world, but we are not talking about a technology that has been evaluated by the FDA, and we do not make any claims to cure or diagnose or in any way prevent any type of disease. And so, what we're going to be talking about tonight is simply a molecule that is made inside the human cell and has the ability to really help the body to do what it needs to do to heal itself, repairing damaged and cells that need to be repaired or replaced. So, without any further ado, George, you're up in Cincinnati. I've known you only a short period of time. I heard your story through a friend, and we connected, and you told me what happened to you. Now, this happened to you when you were about 70, and I believe you're 75 now. And so, I'm going to ask you, please, to just relate your story, how you came into contact with people that knew about these signaling molecules, and then what transpired thereafter.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for your time today to allow me to share my testimonial. This all began in the it was 2019, spring, summer 2019. Um, I noticed that I was passing blood, and I was definitely concerned. I have a friend, a good friend, who is a naturopathic doctor. And so I relate well with John. His name is John Curran. And I start sharing with him what was going on. And he thought, well, maybe I need to be taking something that might be causing some infection, either my bladder or somewhere in one of my organs. And so I started taking some supplements that may help. Um, then it continued. It continued. So the decision was to um, have a doctor check me out, and I did. The first doctor I went to, I kind of say it this way: I don't feel like I felt any compassion for this with this doctor. He was somewhat telling me that. Um, well, again, I did get tested. I did get tested with the CAT scam, and he's he suggested what was wrong was that um, some type of bad cells that were in my kidney dropped down to my ureter, the tube between my kidney and my bladder, and it lodged there. I was told it was possibly the size of a pearl. And when this doctor was explaining what I need to do, it was like I couldn't accept it. It was, well, we're going to take the ureter out, take out the bad cell, and also your right kidney. Well, I said, wait a minute. I haven't been into a hospital since I was born. And so, I can't handle a bloody nose, much less everything he's telling me. And I'm thinking, well, I need another opinion. So I went on to a second, actually a third opinion, and it was always the same answer. But the blessing was that the one doctor who was going to retire, he was ready to retire, he was very compassionate. And I think the word is compassion. Um, he was compassionate enough where he explained to me the situation. He understood. He understood my grief, my concerns. The first time that I may be going under any type of surgery, and I said, well, I had plans to visit our family out in Spokane, Washington, if it would be okay to do that. And I did, took a couple months off, and well, not months off that I was away, but took the months off from having to go into surgery right away after I agreed to have the surgery. And we had a good time with my wife's family, her brother and sister-in-law. We had a great time, and and they're prayer warriors. They prayed for me, knowing my concern. And I thought it was somewhat ironic because here I am in Spokane, and later I found out that Spokane was having all these seminars for the redox companies. That they were. I get to me, they were like the forerunners out there in Spokane, and so I thought that was pretty. What a what a connection that was, knowing that I was right there and having my concern be prayed for and deciding what I'm going to do next. And of course, that was to have surgery. And so the surgery was done. Even the doctor said, "Look," he said, "I have two people that can do this job for you, and they're both good." I said, "Well, which one has the most experience?" He said, "Well," he said, "I have one done it for 10 years and another one done it for 3 years." I said, "Well, I like to take the 10-year doctor." So the 10-year doctor worked on me. He was amazed of how the success was. Fortunately, it was, a cell they could remove, and on the norm would not spread. So it was removed. The ureter was removed, and my right kidney. And the doctor afterwards said, for being 70 years old, he said, "I thought you did real well going through it." Well, at that time, I've been taking supplements and trying to stay healthy most of my life, and so I got through that fine. Then I recovered. You go home and you got the tubes hanging out of you, and yeah, you have to take some time for healing and then return and then have the tubes removed, and everything seemed fine. Now the surgery was in September 2019 of September. And then come about I don't know, a month or two later, in between there, they called me in saying they had some bad news for me. Um, because he did tell me the operation was clean and I was good. But now they're saying I had some bad cells um, that entered the tissue area around where the bad cells were. So somehow maybe it leaked out. Maybe it was my fault that I held off from having the surgery right away. I don't know, but he was showing me that they need to get that cancer out. Or I'm sorry, get the bad cells out. And so he said I would need to have chemo. Well, I didn't want chemo because they just removed a kidney from me, and therefore I didn't want to have another. I didn't want to have a problem with my other kidney. A friend of mine, his name was Tom Andon. He's in heaven now, but he was on a dialysis for a long time because of needing a kidney, and many times I'd go with him. And it just wasn't fun to see him, watch him go through the treatment. And so when I mentioned to the doctor that I don't want, I'm not, I'm concerned with the chemo, but I said, well, how about low dose chemo? And he said, no, we only do high dose. And I said, well, I don't want to take the chance of losing the other kidney. He says, yeah. He says, it's possible. So I don't want to take that chance. And if you're not going to do low dose, then how about no dose? Well, he said, um, he said, you don't have an option here. He said, you don't have a choice. You need the chemo. And I said, well, I do have a choice. I'm going to pray. I'm going to hold off. And that's what I did. And then here I mentioned to you earlier, my naturopathic doctor friend John he knew my situation. He gave me a call probably about 2 weeks after I was just praying for another direction to go. And he said, "Well," he said, I believe I have the answer to your prayer." He said, "I've talked to a doctor lady. I think she's a doctor. Um, and he said that she had the worst bad cells that you want to hear about, one that you don't survive from. Um, but she did. She said she's taking this stuff called redox. She said, "Have you heard of it?" I said, "No." Or the company's name. I said, "No." I said, "But I see, I trusted my doctor, John, enough to say, hey, whatever it is," I said, I follow your lead. Send it to me. I'll try it." And so I didn't have any hesitation because I trusted what he told me about a doctor who beat a situation that I was in, and she was at worse situation. And since then, I have talked to her, and I even had her talk to other people. She's one who was concerned for people who had situations like myself and her, and she does recommend the ASEA, the redox, and I'm sure other things too. Well, I started then to take the redox. Now, this was probably, let's see, this puts me in around January, yeah, 2020. I'm taking the redox, and I believe it was January, about February or March, right in that pocket. Went back to get tested again because my doctor was concerned for me. The good news was he said, I'm bad cell free, if I want to say it that way, abnormal cell free. I'm clear. He was crying and hugging because he thought he was going to lose me because I didn't take the chemo. And so he was very grateful. And he's a believer. He believes he believes in the Lord. He believes in miracles. He prayed with me. Um, well, of course, but he favors medicine. Now there's some supplements that he did favor, but he said, "Whatever you're taking," he said, "continue to take it because it's doing well." And he said, we said, "Whatever you're taking, I suggest continue taking it." And even Dr. John told me, he said, "George," he says, "you may want to be on this the rest of your life." I said, "Yeah, I don't want to take a chance to have back on me what is now gone." And so I said, whatever, whatever suggestions I with it, I'll take, and I have continued taking. We're going on 4.5 years now since then. I will be 75 next come July. I'll be 75, and my health has improved. I do believe that the ASEA is the answer. My wife and I take it every day. In fact, it's like who takes it first. Um, at one time, I was taking like 16 ounces a day when I knew I had the problem, and there was a time also I took a gallon. I was taking, just to try it on the side. I was taking 8 ounces every hour until I took a whole gallon. I heard somebody in a video say that, one of the original individuals on one of the videos.
So George, dig a little deeper on that. I mean, so you got the stuff and you're looking at it. Did you just start right away on 16 ounces, or what did they tell you to do, and how did that work out over the next weeks and months before you found out that you were free? And how about this gallon thing? Did you do that once or several times? That's pretty extreme.
The oh, on the gallon thing, you're saying? Yeah, no, I did that. I did that once, but I was mainly on 16 ounces. Now, to say have any doubt, see, in my situation, in my ordeal, my world, I trust John. So, you know, I even say it today. I said to myself, "What do I have to lose? I've already got the bad news. Anything else got to be better than that. Otherwise, I'm ready to go home. Forget about it." But because of that, it didn't bother me what was in it, because once I heard a testimony of this lady willing to talk to me, pray with me, and tell me everything she does, and you can find her on the web, and she continues to talk to everyone. Uh, I'm saying I beat the problem. So well, I have no concern to find out what's in it.
So
You
how long do
know?
you think you were taking 16 ounces? Because that is a lot. Was it weeks? Was it a month? Was it a month and a half?
Oh yeah, a couple months. Yeah, I was just sucking it down. You know, Dave Struckman was a great helpful for me, and he was sharing with me, you know, to take the maximum, then and giving me other reports. And then it turned out that he said, "Wow, your testimony now became one of the number one testimonies because of what happened with me, you know, in this situation, thinking that I was rid of any problems, and then here I have a problem, and I don't want to take the chemo because I just lost my kidney and I'm down to one kidney and I didn't want to, you know, get on any dialysis. I'm thinking, what do I have to lose? Nothing but to gain.
so
And since you
so
know,
you
praying has
mentioned you
been
mentioned that your family and your grandchildren, and something that was surprising the grandchildren about your stamina and about your overall
oh
vitality.
yes, yes. We have 13 grandchildren and two great grandchildren. And one of the grandchildren, granddaughters, she blessed me by she saying, "Papa, aren't you supposed to be an old man?" I said, "Well," I said, "Well, honey, I guess compared to you, I guess I'm supposed to be old." I think she's 6 years old then. And I said, "Why do you ask?" She says, "Well, how come you don't act like an old man? You roll with us kids like you're one of us." I said, "Honey, what's your favorite ice cream? You just bless Papa." So here out of mouth of babes is saying, why am I not acting like an old man? You know, maybe bent over or, you know, irregular or, you know, who knows? I can't play ball with them. I mean, when I play sports with the grandkids, they quit before I do. Now I'm done, Papa. Are you done? I said, no, I'm good. You want to keep, who's next?
George, something
Yeah,
else that you mentioned that I've never heard before, and this was you were talking about the benefits, and I don't know where this came from, of fasting for maybe
yes.
a certain amount of time and just doing the redox and water. Could you explain a little bit about that? Because I've never heard that before.
Okay. Thank you. I have explained to Dave that I do fast. If anyone is interested in knowing Dr. Bregg's protocol, he has a book called The Miracles of Fasting. I know it was endorsed by Billy Graham, and you know there's Clint Eastwood. He's still around. Um, Jack LaLanne. You remember Jack LaLanne?
The juicer.
Yeah, he was our hero growing up. Jack LaLanne was to die when he was 17. He started following Dr. Bregg's protocol. Jack LaLanne went into his 90s. I think he just passed in 2016, something like that. Um, but it was because of following Dr. Bregg's, I believe, his fasting. A lot of movie stars have followed him. Well, if you get the book, you'll see who all endorsed it. Well, I started following Dr. Bregg's fasting. Now, his fasting is a little different than what we may be doing today. To say it in a nutshell, he suggests 1 day a week fast and then take 3 days out of the month and fast, and then take 7 to 10 days every 3 months and fast. So I'm I'm on his protocol. That's what I do. Vicky will tell you, say, how long are you going? I said, well, I'm going to go 7 days. 7 days. I know every year I don't miss fasting from Palm Sunday to the resurrection, Easter. I get those times in all the time. But anyway, then when I was introduced to ASEA, I started realizing, you know, when you fast, you're supposed to fast from everything because it's not because you know only what your body produces, and it produces water. Okay, so water and your fast. Well, then I thought, wait a minute, our body is producing these redox molecules, right? Yes. Well, then there's no reason to fast from that because that's native. And I talked to Dr. John about this. He says, "Yeah, you're right." I said, "So I'm going to start fasting with redox from now on." And I'm telling you, friends, it made a big difference in the fasting. It was a easier fast mentally, my stamina, and going from there. So I fast with the Sia when I fast now. So it's water and a Sia, and it may be 16 ounces a day, is whatever I want to take. It doesn't matter because that's my food. Now, if anyone wants to talk to me about fasting to get started, because many of them can't just jump the gun like that, our bodies go on tilt. So I suggest I'll work with you, I'll even fast with you, especially if you're having the problems I had and how the fasting helps. Let me share this. Doctors in the know tell people who may have the let's say the um, bad cells that before they take chemo to fast 48 hours before you take chemo. And what they say what happens is our immune system protects all the good cells and exposes the bad cells. Well, therefore, now the chemo eats the bad cells. I have a friend, Vicky and I, a lady who attended a church we were involved with, and found out that she has all these bad cells, and her doctors are puzzled because she's not getting any bad side effects from the chemo. And it's because she's taking the redox and she's fasting before chemo. So she's thinking of going off the chemo now because they're saying now she's doing well. They say her numbers are looking really good. In fact, they're surprised that they're improving. But she's not telling them what she's doing. She's not mentioning the redox and she's not talking about fasting. And I said, fine, and keep it to yourself, but just keep doing it. And when we started, I would fast with her. I said, you got to fast. I said, Wednesday and Thursday, so you're ready for Friday. She says, okay. I said, Vicky and I are fasting with you, or I'm fasting with you, or your husband maybe, or whoever. I said, you know what you need to do? Be watching videos about fasting when you're fasting because you're being encouraged. Read books about fasting while you're fasting so you're being encouraged. You don't feel like you're alone or fast with someone. There's another book you may want to consider. It says it's called Fast Like a Girl by Dr. Mindy, I think, the Dr. Mindy, Fast Like a Girl. And it's for guys too. She breaks down the benefits of fasting and why we're having the problems we're having if we're not fasting. That's a great book right there.
So
Huh.
George, so you are recommending some form of fasting along with using the redox. So the information you've given us so far is pretty amazing because you have gone through a terrible phase and come out the other side and amazed your doctors. So I have one last question and then we'll end the recording for right now. I'd like you just to basically address people that feel, you know what, I don't have anything wrong. I feel like I'm strong and healthy and everything's going great and I don't really see any need for any kind of, not just the redox, but supplements or any of the other things that are recommended. I don't see me ever getting ill. What would you say to people like that?
I would say, God bless you. I would say you can improve your health even though you're doing well. You can be greater. If you're great, you can be greater. If you're good, you can be great. If you're well, you can be excellent. Here's how I see it. You, for those that know or heard, that we lose our redox molecules after puberty years. In other words, I was told, and this is through doctors and science, that at age 20, we lose 20%. Our age is our gauge. In other words, I like to say it this way. If we were born a 10-cylinder Ferrari, okay, 10 cylinders, and God's designed for us to run top notch as long as we can. Well, as we lose these redox molecules by the age 20, we're down to 8 cylinders. Okay. Every 10 years, we lose a cylinder. So I was told at age 70, when I was introduced to the ASEA, that my age is my gauge. In other words, at age 70, I am 70% short of these redox molecules. I said, whoa, you mean I'm only operating on 30%? I said, yes. And when you turn 75, it's less. When you turn 80, you're down to now 20%. At 90, 10%. At 100, well, you may be home in heaven. My mother almost made 100, and she was on the ASEA. What took her down was when the COVID hit. It was a shame. But she was, now listen to this. Here's my mother, 98, living by herself, no medical problems. She swore that the ASEA was answer to her prayer. She thanked God, and she thanked ASEA. She thanked Dr. John and everybody who promoted ASEA. She loved the gel. She said, honey, you don't realize what this gel's doing for me. I can't talk about it because it's private lady things, but this is a miracle. This stuff is taking away my pains or anything like that. I don't, she listen, my mother was so much in good health, 98, that the doctors are supposed to come to their house said, you don't qualify because you're in good health. And she was in better health than they were. I met them. And he said, why is your mother in good health? I said, I'll tell you. And you can be in good health. And these doctors are having problems, the nurses that come. They were amazed at my mother's health. And I related all to the ASEA and the gel. So again, 98 and a half she went, and her goal was to be 100. She'd still be here if it wasn't for the COVID. She'd still be here. She was a fighter. She was a fighter. Can you imagine living by herself? I mean, yeah, I would bring her groceries and help her clean the place up, but she didn't need anybody.
Wow. So
And here's the
George,
thing:
I'm
my
sorry.
mother. I'm going to say this, my mother. I lost my father when I was 14. My mother was age 40 after losing my dad. My dad was 46. He was a little older than my mother. But my mom was left with 4 boys. She raised us all. 4 boys. This is 1964. And no, she did wonderful. And so we loved her to the very end. We loved her to the very end. Okay. But anyway, I was saying about, the need on that. So to come back, if this is the case that we lose 10% every 10 years, when they told me I'm at 30%, I said, that's less than a Fiat. The Fiat's even, Italian Fiat is 4 cylinders. Now, here's what came to my mind. If I'm only at 30% at age 70, then that would mean what I drink, I'm only getting 30% value. What I eat, I'm only getting 30% value. My supplements, my medicine, my extra, everything I'm doing is only 30%. So if I can build that back up to 100, now everything I'm taking is at 100% efficiency. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And the other thing is the test. People say, well, it tastes bad, doesn't it? I said, here's what I found out. If it tastes bad when I'm taking the ASEA, if it tastes like pool water, it's because it's detoxing something. I ate something that isn't agreeable. I took something that my body says, no, get it out. So the ASEA is kicking it out. Therefore, it tastes bad. But here's the good news. When it tastes good, when it tastes like your tears, because it makes your tears. So when it tastes like your tears, when the redox tastes like your tears, your body is telling you you're in health harmony. Everything's going fine. So keep making sure you're tasting like your tears. And that's your morning test. That's the thermometer. Take the test. Do you taste like swimming pool water, or does it taste like your tears? That will tell you without having to ask a doctor.
Wow. Hey, George, amazing stuff. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop the recording and
Okay.
give me 1 second. But thank you so much. We're very grateful for this information. A lot of people are going to benefit from it. Here we go.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.